When my parents left for a week-long trip, it felt routine. They'd done this before, trusted me to hold down the fort. I was the dependable one after all. The one who knew where everything was, how to work the water heater, how to reset the circuit breaker if the lights ever went out. It wasn't a big deal. What felt different, though I couldn't name it at the time, was him. Technically he was younger, 19, just a couple years behind me, but we were close in age. Close in other ways too. Everyone called him my little brother, and so did I, though he wasn't, not by blood. He was the son of my father's best friend, who'd moved overseas years ago for work. When they left, they asked my parents if he could stay with us so he wouldn't have to uproot his schooling. What was supposed to be a temporary arrangement eventually just became life. And over time, little brother became a title we wore out of habit. Familiar, easy, safe. But that morning after they left, something shifted. The house was quiet. Not unnaturally so, but enough that it made me pause. When I walked into the kitchen, expecting the usual silence, I found him already there, making breakfast. He stood at the stove with his sleeves pushed up, flipping pancakes with a focus I'd never really paid attention to before. His hair was messy, face calm, the soft golden light of morning catching the curve of his jaw. When he turned and saw me, he smiled and handed me a plate without saying anything. Just a simple, knowing smile. No theatrics, no teasing. I laughed, trying to keep it light. "What's this? You're a grown-up now." He met my eyes, held them for just a second too long. "Maybe you've just never noticed. It should have been nothing. Just a passing comment." But his tone, gentle, almost regretful, lingered in the back of my mind all day. I brushed it off, but I remembered it, turning it over like a smooth stone in my pocket. That evening I was curled on the couch, mindlessly scrolling my phone when he joined me. He sat closer than usual, thigh against mine, and I didn't move. We watched something forgettable on TV, and at some point my head found its way to his shoulder. I told myself it was fine. We'd done that before. This was normal. But as I lay there, the rise and fall of his breathing under my cheek, I felt everything differently. His warmth, his stillness, the way he didn't shift away. My skin was aware in a way it hadn't been before. When I moved slightly, adjusting to ease the growing tension in my chest, he moved too, subtly, gently, letting his hand rest over mine, like a question. And I didn't pull away. Couldn't. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't want to undo it either. Later, at the top of the stairs, he looked at me with an expression I couldn't place. Not quite nervous, not quite bold. Just quiet, waiting. I spoke first. "Good night." Came out too fast, too high. "Good night," he echoed, voice low, almost careful, like he was holding something back. The next morning, I woke before my alarm and passed his room on the way to the bathroom. His door was slightly ajar. Paused without thinking. He was still asleep, limbs tangled in the sheets, his face turned toward the wall. Peaceful. Vulnerable. I watched longer than I should have. Not with judgment or confusion, but with an ache I didn't want to examine too closely. I left quietly, but the image of him stayed with me. That afternoon we cooked together. He stood close behind me as I chopped vegetables, his chest grazing my back as he guided my hands. His touch was steady, casual, but not indifferent. My breath caught. I didn't move. I let it happen. That night, I stared at the ceiling in my dark room, wrestling with this feeling that had crept in. Quiet but undeniable. He'd always been funny, always thoughtful. He noticed things. He remembered what I liked when I was tired, when I needed quiet. But now those same things felt sharper. He hadn't changed. I had. The third night came with rain. Soft at first, then steadier. The kind of rain that filled every corner of the house with sound, like nature humming in the background. When the lights flickered and finally gave out, I lit a few candles and called for him. He appeared moments later, hoodie pulled up, eyes catching the warm glow of candlelight. "Romantic, huh?" he teased, nodding at the table where I sat surrounded by flickering flames. I rolled my eyes, but I smiled. That word, romantic, settled into the air like dust. He joined me, and without the distractions of phones or music, we just talked. Easily, deeply. He brought up old memories. How I used to rope him into doing my chores when he first moved in. You were so quiet back then, I said, laughing. Maybe I just liked listening to you, he replied with a shrug. Froze. Something in that answer pressed against my chest. Later in the kitchen, I went to grab water and he followed. We didn't speak. As I turned to leave, he reached out and gently touched my wrist. Not to stop me, not to demand anything. Just a pause. Moment. I looked up and we just stood there, still quiet. I didn't pull away. He didn't let go until I did. Sleep didn't come easily that night. My mind replayed everything. His words, his touch, the unspoken electricity building between us. And yet none of it felt wrong. Just unknown. The next morning, he knocked before I was even out of bed. He brought me tea. You look tired, he said softly. When our fingers touched, neither of us moved right away. I held on to that warmth longer than I meant to. We didn't talk about it. Not openly. But everything, every word, every glance, felt heavier now. The air between us had shifted from something casual to something charged. Even our silences said more than our words. That afternoon, music drifted from his room. Something soft, something old. Followed it, curious. He turned when I entered, held out his hand without speaking. I hesitated, then placed mine in his. He pulled me gently toward him and we danced. Slowly, uncertainly. I avoided his eyes at first, afraid of what I might see. But when I finally looked up, I saw nothing but sincerity. His heartbeat pulsed through his shirt, steady against me. He placed his hand on the small of my back. Not to possess, just to be there. You feel it too, don't you? He whispered. He nodded. It was the only truth I could offer. We sat down, still close. He reached for my hand slowly, as if waiting for me to pull away. I didn't. I never saw you as a sister, he said quietly. Not even once. My breath caught. I know, I whispered. The room around us faded. The tension, the questions, the rules we used to follow, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this quiet, steady understanding. We hadn't crossed any lines. Not yet. But we'd acknowledged something that had always been waiting beneath the surface. That night, for the first time, I didn't question anything. I lay in bed with a strange clarity. I wasn't afraid. I didn't care what anyone might call this. I knew what I felt. I knew he felt it too. And whatever this was, whatever it might become, it wasn't wrong. It was real. It was gentle. It was ours.